Have you noticed this? The very thing that fires you up at the start is also the reason you crash and burn halfway through. Motivation. Every time a new idea hits, you feel like a superhero, swearing, "This time I'm going all the way." And then a week later, it gets boring, the spark fades, and your project is lying there like a dried up fish. And you tell yourself, "Guess I'm just lazy." You're not. Leo was a young clockmaker living on a quiet little street where the church bells and the steady ticking of old clocks blended into the neighborhood's background music. He had just inherited his father's dusty old workshop. His father, the legendary craftsman, known for one thing: if it's broken, he'll make it run again. Inside the shop was a tiny universe of its own. Tweezers small as rice grains, magnifying lenses, gears thin as leaves, and clocks of every kind breathing in soft, steady tick-tocks. And Leo? He was good, really good. He understood the inner heartbeat of every timepiece, measured precisely, repaired quickly, a talent worthy of his father's name. But there was one problem. Leo didn't love fixing ordinary clocks. Stuck hands, dead batteries, dusty gears, all of it felt dull, beneath him. Because in Leo's mind, he wasn't just a repairman, he was an inventor. His drawer was stuffed with sketches of wild, impossible clocks. One powered by flowing water, one with miniature planets orbiting its face, another where tiny dancers twirled every hour. Every time a new idea hit him, Leo lit up like a live wire. He would sit for hours sketching and building, forgetting to eat, convinced he was inches away from brilliance. But when he hit a hard part, a gear misaligned, a mechanism that refused to run, the spark vanished instantly. The project got pushed to the corner of the table with a familiar promise: "I'll finish this when I feel inspired again." Meanwhile, his father's shop began to fade. Fewer customers, more dust, fewer ticking clocks, and Leo, still chasing the next shiny idea, finishing none. One chilly morning, Leo was drafting another astronomical clock when the bell above the door chimed. A well-dressed old man stepped in, carrying a grandfather clock almost as tall as he was. It was stunning. Polished brown wood, copper carvings, a golden face that looked like it belonged in a museum. Leo actually froze. The old man placed it gently on the counter. "My father left this to me. It's been silent for 50 years, he said. I've brought it to countless masters. They all said it was hopeless. They said your father was the only one who ever could have fixed it. And now, you're his heir." He looked Leo straight in the eyes. "If you can make it run again, I'll pay enough to save this shop." And just like that, the spark roared to life in Leo's chest. A legendary challenge, a chance to prove himself. He nodded immediately. "I'll fix it." The first days were magic. Leo tore into the clock with electric focus. He dismantled parts, arranged gears into neat trays, listened to each metallic whisper. Every tiny screw felt like a puzzle piece waiting for him alone. He stayed up late, eyes red, heart blazing. "I'm close. I'm so close." But then came week one. This clock had over 1,000 components. To find the flaw, Leo had to do the one thing he hated most: clean, measure, and inspect every single piece. Slow, repetitive, uninspired work. One whole day just to clean a single gear cluster. A whole morning to realign one tiny shaft. The electric feeling drained fast. By day 7, the thrill was gone. Now all Leo saw were cold, lifeless parts, scattered like soldiers on a silent battlefield. The old whispers returned. "This is pointless. There are newer, better things you could build. This probably can't be fixed anyway." Leo's eyes drifted to a sketchbook in the corner, the way an addict looks at one last hit. And then he snapped. One afternoon, frustrated by a jammed spring, Leo swung his arm too hard. The tray of screws crashed to the floor in a cruel metallic rain. He froze. Then slowly, painfully, knelt to pick up each piece. With every tiny screw he gathered, a heavy truth settled on him. I'm doing it again. Starting with fire, ending with ashes. The shop was dying. His father's legacy was dying. And Leo was the one killing it by chasing inspiration instead of responsibility. Sitting on the floor, holding a screw no bigger than a grain of rice, he whispered, "Tomorrow I'm calling the old man. I'll tell him it can't be fixed." That night, he didn't sleep. He just cleaned his father's workbench like someone preparing to shut a place down forever. Then he found the notebooks, old leather logs, edges worn soft, his father's work journals. Leo expected passion, genius secrets, or the master techniques everyone talked about. Instead, he found ordinary notes. Tuesday, cleaned escape wheel from Mrs. Gable's clock. 3 hours, third gear worn, replace. Thursday, a boy brought his father's watch. Not worth much, fixed it for free, made him smile. Wednesday, all day adjusting City Hall clock spring. Back hurts, didn't finish. Try again tomorrow. Page after page. No inspiration, no drama, just showing up. At the end of one journal, his father had written, "Those who work only when inspired will have many beginnings and almost no endings. Great clocks don't run because they feel inspired. They run because they're built right and obey the laws that guide them. A craftsman is the same. You don't come to the bench because you feel like it. You come because it's time to work. And if you're lucky, somewhere along the way, you'll start to enjoy it." Leo read it again and again. Each line felt like a slap to the version of himself he'd been clinging to. His father wasn't a genius because he was always inspired. He was a genius because he didn't wait for inspiration. The next morning, Leo changed everything. He opened the shop early. No music, no sketchbook, just the bench, just the clock. He made himself a rule: 4 hours every morning, no matter how I feel, just show up. Some days were awful. His brain complained nonstop. "This is boring. This is stupid. Quit." Sometimes 4 hours of work produced nothing. Not a breakthrough, not progress, just cleaner metal. But Leo didn't slam tools or walk away. He simply set them down and said, "I'll continue tomorrow." And something strange began happening. When he stopped chasing the thrill, he started seeing the craft, the beauty in a polished tooth of a gear, the elegance in parts aligning perfectly, the quiet satisfaction of doing something well, even if no one was watching. Slowly, Leo fell in love with his father's world, not all at once, but piece by piece. And then, after 3 patient weeks, he found it. A single tooth on a tiny gear, bent ever so slightly, buried deep inside the mechanism, so small that the old masters never caught it. He fixed it gently, reassembled the entire machine with reverence, like stitching together a living creature. When he hung the pendulum and gave it a soft nudge, he held his breath. Silence. Then, tick-tock, tick-tock. A sound that filled the whole shop with life. Leo stood still, stunned. Somewhere inside that steady rhythm, he could almost hear his father's voice. Not the voice of a man waiting for inspiration. The voice of a man who kept his promise to the work every single day. The next morning, the old man returned. Leo simply pointed to the corner where the clock stood, alive again. The man placed his trembling hand on the wood, closed his eyes, and let the sound wash over him. "My father wound this clock every Sunday morning," he whispered. "I thought I'd never hear this sound again." In that moment, Leo understood. He hadn't just repaired a clock. He had repaired the way he lived. And it wasn't brilliance that brought time back to life. It was the quiet, stubborn act of showing up again and again until the world started ticking with him. You're just running on the wrong fuel. In the next few minutes, I'm going to tell you a story about a young clockmaker and an impossible clock that refused to tick for 50 years. And the lesson he learned might be exactly what you've been missing. But hold up. Before we get into it, tell me this. At which minute do you usually quit when the hype dies out? Drop your number in the comments so I know how big our Give Up Halfway squad really is. So what's the lesson here? It's simple. Motivation is just the spark that gets you started. Discipline is the engine that gets you to the finish line. If you only move when you feel inspired, you'll end up with a whole graveyard of projects started and almost zero projects finished. Learn to love the process, not just the outcome, because the real reward isn't completing the work. It's becoming the kind of person who can complete the work. And those days when you're tired, bored, ready to quit? Yeah, those are the days that matter most. Don't think about the whole staircase. Just take one step. Write one sentence, finish one small part, fix one tiny gear. Now it's your turn. What have you abandoned just because the hype ran out? Drop the name of that project below. Let's build a little Finish What We Started squad together.